Harvey Korman was making $25,000 per episode on the Carol Burnett Show in 1973. That's when everything went wrong. He started ignoring Tim Conway's jokes, ruining scenes and acting completely out of control. Carol watched her own show falling apart because of one man's behavior. After Harvey slammed a door in her face, Carol picked up the phone and made a call that changed everything. She fired him immediately. But what Harvey did next was even more surprising. The real story will shock you. Carol Burnett was born on April 26, 1933 in San Antonio, Texas. Her father worked at a movie theater and her mother wrote publicity for studios. Both of them wanted to be writers, but they drank too much and that ruined everything. By the time Carol was just a few years old, their drinking had caused fights, separations, and deep poverty. Her father became jobless and disappeared for long periods. He died young in 1954 at just 46 alone in a charity hospital. Her mother also died at 46 in 1958 after years of drinking and angry outbursts. Carol remembered how her mom would scream at her when drunk, blaming her for things that made no sense. Her dad, even when drunk, was gentle. The chaos at home scared her, but she used it to fuel her imagination. She later said that the pain made her funny. In 1986, she wrote how her mother once told her, "You can always write no matter what you look like." It hurt, but Carol turned that pain into the sketches. That made people laugh. When Carol was 7 in 1940, she and her grandmother moved to a crumbling Hollywood boarding house on Yucca Street. It was just one room with no kitchen or bathroom, and they had to use a toilet down the hall. They survived on $30 a month from welfare, sometimes stealing toilet paper from theaters because they couldn't afford basics. Carol slept on a small couch until she was 21. They hung clothes from the shower rod because there was no closet. But even with all that, her grandmother, who loved music, sang with her at the kitchen table. That's where Carol's voice developed. By age 9, she could do her famous Tarzan yell. The other people in the building were also poor dreamers, actors, writers, and musicians. So even in misery there was a strange kind of hope. Her parents' divorce came in the late 1930s when she was around 5. Her father vanished completely and her mother disappeared for days on drinking binges. Carol was left mostly with her grandmother. Lonely, she began making up stories. She even invented a twin sister named Karen in 2nd grade around 1940. She'd change clothes, climb the fire, escape, and act like Karen was real. The game wore her out, so she let Karen disappear. With no toys, she used movies to escape. A few years later, in 1944, her mother had another daughter, Chrissy, from an affair, adding even more instability. When Carol graduated from Hollywood High in 1951, she used a mysterious $50 donation to enroll at UCLA. She feared ending up like her mother, but she was determined to break the pattern. Years later, those messy memories became hilarious sketches on her show. When she was about 12, sometime around 1945, something happened that stayed with her forever. She found her mother passed out on Hollywood Boulevard, mumbling and completely out of it. People walked by staring. That moment haunted her. Her mom kept trying to get sober, but it never lasted. She'd scream, break bottles, and accuse Carol of things that weren't real. Carol testified in court in 1981, calling her mother a hostile drunk. Later, her own daughter, Erin, also battled addiction. After 8 stints in treatment and a suicide attempt in 2020, Carol had to take custody of her grandson, Dylan. It was like watching history repeat itself. In her 1986 memoir, she talked about these patterns and how they made her fight harder to stay away from alcohol and use her pain in her comedy. During World War II, between 1941 and 1945, Carol and her grandmother were dirt poor. They'd scavenge for food and survive on government cheese. Movies became their only escape. For 25 cents, they watched films like Gone with the Wind again and again. Carol especially loved pretending to be Scarlett O'Hara. She'd watch 3 movies a week and dream of being on stage. They'd sometimes bring home toilet paper from the theaters because they couldn't afford their own. During the 1943 blackouts, they'd sit in the dark singing harmonies to calm their nerves. Her Broadway dreams began during those years. In 1954, someone she barely knew gave her a $1,000 loan to move to New York. She left during Hurricane Carol, a storm as wild as her life. And that money changed everything. Carol went to Hollywood High School in the late 1940s and finished in 1951. She was in school plays despite being bullied because of her second-hand clothes and poor living situation. One time a teacher saw her act and encouraged her. That changed her. She stopped being shy and started believing she could make people laugh. She and her grandmother still lived in one room, still poor, still dreaming. Movies were their escape every week. The characters she later created on her show all came from these early days of pain mixed with humor. When Carol was 16 around 1949, she discovered something that shook her. Her mother had lied about her age to keep getting welfare checks. This came out during a heated argument in their tiny room. It made Carol feel like she couldn't trust anyone. Their $50 monthly relief checks kept them afloat, but everything was held together by lies and fear. She still pushed forward, applying for scholarships and trying to hold on to hope. She graduated with honors and focused on journalism. Years later, she wrote about this betrayal in her book, One More Time. Hurt deeply, but it gave her fire. In the early 1950s, Carol worked at the Warner Brothers Theater as an usher, making just 65 cents an hour. She and her grandmother lived in a $30 a month studio and barely got by. After her shifts, she'd sneak back into the theater and watch Lucille Ball's comedies. She memorized them. She studied Lucy's timing and moves, learning how to be funny without saying a word. She got caught once for letting someone see a movie twice. But instead of being scared, she charmed her way out. Those little jobs, earning maybe $20 a week, paid for her tuition at UCLA. But more than money, they gave her a way out. Years later, she worked with Lucille Ball on TV. The girl who once stole toilet paper now made people laugh alongside her idol. In 1951, she started at UCLA on a journalism scholarship. Tuition was only $43 a semester, and that mystery $50 donation helped her afford it. At first she was quiet and unsure. Then, in 1952, a professor saw her perform in class and told her she belonged in theater. That moment changed everything. She switched majors and found her voice. During one party in 1954, she did a skit about stuffing cookies in her purse and someone offered her a $1,000 loan. No strings attached. She left UCLA with an associate in arts degree, having starred in school productions like South Pacific. Her notes from 1953 still exist, showing how quickly she grew from scared to fearless. Even during those years, life was still hard. From the 1940s into the